Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. It's a brand new match preview as Wolves enter the final 3 games of the Premier League season, and it's our penultimate away game as Wolves are on their travels to Old Trafford to take on Manchester United. As always, guys, I'm going to be giving my thoughts ahead of the game, my predicted lineup, and we will have the opposition preview later on in today's video. But do let me know your thoughts ahead of this match against Manchester United. The first match of Wolves being mathematically safe in the division, which is obviously great news. It was secured, obviously massively helped with our big victory over Aston Villa on Saturday, but bank holiday Monday here in the UK during the afternoon. I think it was the Leicester result that secured the survival for Wolves, which was a good feeling. But now it'll be intriguing to see how Lopetegui approaches the last 3 games. Is he going to be giving opportunities to players that haven't really quite had the minutes of late? Or is he going to put sentiment to one side and try and go for it and try and get the momentum and morale up for the final few games of the campaign? Well, he did have his pre-match press conference today, Lopetegui. He did say there are no new injury concerns for Wolves, which is obviously a good thing. He did also say that some minutes may be given to players that haven't really had minutes as of late. So, be very interesting to see who he includes in that. There are players obviously sat on the bench right now that haven't had minutes of late. You could say Adama, Sarabia, Moutinho. Then there are players even further back than that. Johnny, Boubacar Traore, Jimenez, Aït-Nouri. So it'll be really interesting to see who he sort of puts in what category. And next week as well against Everton is the big one because that's our final home game of the season. Probably the last time some of these players will see the fans again. You know, such as Adama, such as Jimenez. So I am really interested to see how Lopetegui approaches the whole squad and initial lineup for this game. But, of course, Wolves haven't really got anything to play for now other than a couple of league places, pride. Manchester United have still got a lot on the table. They're desperate for points to try and keep themselves in the top 4 and obviously get a Champions League place. Fortunately for you guys, I'm going to be going to Old Trafford and my record watching Wolves there is actually unbeaten as of right now. I've seen us win there once and draw there once, so hopefully I can keep that unbeaten streak going. But I'll get the Premier League table up as of right now. Manchester United currently sat in 4th place behind Newcastle United, but just 1 point ahead of Liverpool, although they do have a game in hand. So for them, especially at home, they're going to be desperate to try and get a victory from this game. Wolves currently sat in 13th now with 40 points. Only 2 points behind Chelsea, who are sat in 11th. So a couple of wins between now and the end of the season could see us creep up to 12th, 11th place. But for Wolves, there isn't a lot to play for. But of course, fans are still going to want to see a certain level of football. Our last away game against Brighton was so forgettable, a disastrous performance. And I'm hoping that Wolves can take all the good things they created and made in the Villa game and can put them into this game against Manchester United as well. And that's why with my predicted lineup, I have gone completely unchanged. I've only gone with this because I think we just, as everybody knows, we play so much better with Cunha next to Diego Costa in the attack. I think those two have got to start. Regardless, I think Cunha's got to start as a number 10 in there somewhere. I've kept, like I said, kept the same 11. I thought Neto was really bright coming in. It's fantastic to see him, over the last week or two. Even against Brighton, he was, our bright spark in such a dark and disappointing day. Núñez, although frustrated me a little bit last week, still had moments of brilliance in that game against Aston Villa. Was unlucky not to have either got an assist or a goal. Midfield, again, Lamina and Neves. Probably a bit harsh on João Gomez, but those two, again, were very good against Aston Villa. Back 4 improved a lot. Semedo, obviously, was a doubt going into that game, but kept his place. Great to see Totti on the score sheet as well, showing what he can do, and it will be a big test for him against some really talented footballers on Saturday, and centre-back Dawson and Kilman, and of course Sarr in goal as well. But on the bench, we could see, a whole host of changes, but even coming into the team as well, could we see Sarabia get introduced? I think there are players such as Sarabia, such as Adama Traore, even Ait Nori could start the game, but we'll just have to wait and see. Or did Lopetegui mean by lack of minutes someone like João Gomez? Although he has broken into the team, probably not as many minutes as he deserves in recent weeks or since he signed. So maybe we do see him start a few more games. But yeah, be interested to see how Wolves line up, but that's a big talking point going into the next couple of days ahead of the game. Now, I spoke to Tyrone, who's a Manchester United fan and podcaster, ahead of this game to see what his thoughts were ahead of this match and Manchester United's aspirations for the rest of the season and into the future. So then, Tyrone, thank you very much for joining me on Talking Wolves. How you keeping, mate?
All good, all good. It's been a long season with the World Cup and everything, but 2 more weeks and it's there. I'm just trying to get my fantasy football team sorted, to be honest.
Mine's picked up, to be fair, the last few weeks. A little triple captain on Haaland a few weeks ago saved me a little bit, but yeah, we're almost there. But yeah, Manchester United still a busy end to the season for you guys. You've got a game in hand of most teams, fourth in the league right now, but a little bit of pressure on you guys after the last couple of weeks of results. But overall, thinking all the way back to August when you started the season, what's your thoughts so far? Do you think it's been a success for United so far, or been a little bit disappointing?
No, do you know what? 100% successful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very realist. I'm not a very over. I don't react. I don't want to be overreaction or anything like that. I said at the start of the season, for me, top six. If we can get a domestic cup, that'd be great. But I wanted to see football because obviously we had been through the Ragnick, the Ollie stages, or Mourinho. Despite what he's won, I was never a fan of him when he actually arrived. If I'm totally honest,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to see better football. So for us to be in the top four right now, we've won a domestic cup, and we're in the FA Cup final as well. It could be a domestic double. And getting top four. To be honest, I think that is a successful season. And I think at the same time as well, we've made mistakes, the manager included as well. I love Ten Hag, but he's made mistakes with his subs sometimes. Some of the players haven't stepped up. I think we're going to go into next season in a better position because now he's also been able to find out what we need. As well as it's been a success, it's not like, oh my God, everything's been amazing. We've seen some players not live up to their expectations. Ten Hag's made the mistakes himself, like when Pep did, like I said, when he came, he finished third or fourth in his first season. So I'm hoping now it's a good building block to go into next season. But the job ain't done. Like you said, we'll talk about it in a moment, I'm guessing. But the top four race, you think it's over, but it's definitely not now.
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks have put that bit of pressure on. It's interesting you say about Ten Hag. Obviously, it's his first season in England, but we've seen that over the last couple of years with Wolves. Obviously, we had Bruno Lage last year, and I saw the same sort of thing. You almost see them grow as a manager and adapt to the Premier League,
I
like
liked him even
players
when he was
do.
at Braga. I actually liked him.
Yeah, even as like players do, they almost adapt to the Premier League. So it's really interesting to see. But what's your thoughts on him? Do you think he's the man to help bring long-term success back to United?
100%. I think since Ferguson, this is the first manager I feel like, right, I'm 100% backing you, like all the way. Decisions he makes with transfers, decisions in terms of obviously what he's got wrong in some substitutions lately, but I still back what he's trying to do. And I do think he'll bring that back. I think the players believe in what he's trying to do as a long-term plan. It's not sort of, a short-term fix. I think the longer he's here, the better we'll become, because then it'll filter down as well into the youth system as well. And then when they're coming up into the adult game, it's like they already know how we play, the style of football and stuff like that. So I'm fully behind Ten Hag. I don't think now, like if obviously it's not going to happen, but if we got rid of him now, it'd probably be just Poch and Enrique that I'd look at and I'd be like, right, they're the two that I'd want. Yeah. But still, I'll take Ten Hag over both of them still at this point now. So yeah, I'm really behind Ten Hag. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to win a league, being honest, because I look at City right now and they're strong. Obviously, Liverpool are going to get better again next season. Yeah. Chelsea, I've always said that their squad is there, but they just need a manager to get the balance between the youth and experience. Yeah. But, we've won a trophy already this year. So if we can do that this year and we've not got a Ten Hag proper team yet, then there's room to be optimistic. Put it that way.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, he had a crazy start to life. It's crazy to think that you actually started the season with Cristiano Ronaldo as well. I keep seeing highlights of him right at the start of the season, and you completely forget he was even at the club this year.
Up front in the first game against Brighton.
Yeah, so he had a lot of hurdles to cross, and he took a lot of he had a lot of authority to do what he did to Cristiano Ronaldo, who was still down. And I suppose to most Manchester United fans he is still a legend, but for Ten Hag to deal with that in such an early stage of his career, it's quite impressive, really. But other players have had to step up. One of those, Marcus Rashford, for sure. He's had, I know he's quieting down a little bit with goals and so on in recent times, but this season for him has been fantastic. Do you think he's probably one of the big players that Wolves need to watch out for on Saturday?
Yes, I do. I just think stylistically, he's different to every other player we've got. And I think that's why he does stand out. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Marcus Rashford. Funny enough, his heritage is actually the same country as mine. It's St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean.
Cool.
Tiny island. Yeah, so I feel like I've got like a good little affiliation with him. But like, in terms of Marcus Rashford, he's always going to score goals. He's always going to give you output. I always question his sort of all-round game. And I think he's one of them players that, unfortunately, I will always question his all-round game. However, because he does, give you the goals and the output, it kind of puts that aside because he's an out. It's like, I always compare it to Heung-min Son at Spurs. I don't think Heung-min Son's like an amazing all-round footballer, but he always contributes to what Spurs have done over the last few seasons. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes in some games you see him and you're like, he's not really involved, but he can score a goal out of nothing. So with Rashford, I do think you need to be worried just because I feel like he's the player that can get in behind your defense. Everyone else, Martial, I'm a big fan of, but you've got Sancho, you've got Anthony. They're all ball to feet players. So if you've got your Max Kilmans and your Dawsons and Semedos, whoever's playing like right back or left back, Bueno or is it Tito who's played last week?
Totti,
Totti, that's it. Totti, he played last week. If it's him and you've got these guys playing in front of you, that's what your defenders who are quite physical don't mind. Whereas Rashford's going to kind of make you lot go the other way. So I do feel like if he has a good game, that's where we're going to get most of our joy, because I think Wolves want to see us playing in front of you guys. That's where I think you guys are more comfortable. I don't know what you think on that. But
I was going to say, I think you bang on. I mean, that's been a discussion, especially with Totti, who's obviously still a raw talent, hasn't got massive amounts of Premier League experience.
He's a natural centre back.
So it's interesting. We spoke about this on our podcast with sort of this last few years, almost a bit of a trend of centre halves going to fullbacks in Ben White, Dan Burn, Ake, that sort of thing. And it's worked quite well. And I suppose for Wolves, we were never a physically dominant side. So we use set pieces and stuff. It almost adds an extra, element to that as well. But with Totti in front of you, if you've got the ball in front of him, I'm pretty confident, he can win battles. But as soon as that ball goes in behind, that's where he struggles. That's where he commits fouls, gets booked and so on. So that'll be interesting. Obviously, Rashford, you assume, will be on the opposite side to him. But if the likes of Anthony or whoever starts on the right-hand side do get in behind, it'll be an interesting battle on that side for sure. But Casemiro's one for me. We've seen top players from abroad. Casemiro, obviously an elite player, playing for Real Madrid. And I was worried when he came to England because I thought, is he going to transform that quality? And I mean, I think he has, but I don't know what your thoughts on him so far this season.
I thought exactly the same as you. I thought decorated player, obviously world class. You wouldn't pick 5 other defensive midfielders in the world above him, but I was like, is he? The thing for the Premier League was the pace of the league. That's what was gonna. I was thinking, like, when you got players like Kovacic, for example, or even Matthias Nunes, for you guys that can like ball carry. I thought, is he going to be the type that just keeps giving away yellows by pulling players down and stuff like that? But you know what? When he first signed, McTominay was playing for the first 5 to 6 weeks, I'd say, till he sort of adjusted. And when he came in, you could just see the difference he gives us as Manchester United. I think that leadership is one big thing as well. We don't have many people that, even if you make a tackle, say Pedro Neto is running through on Saturday, and then he comes across and makes some sliding tackles, the ball goes out for a throw-in. It kind of gets the crowd going a bit, and we don't have many players that are like that. So I feel like him, even off the pitch, on the pitch, the leadership, I think it's a breath of fresh air. Obviously, it's unfortunate that he's 31 and he's not 25. But I do think for what we need right now, it's perfect because we've been missing something in the middle. I've always said, actually, like one of my most underrated midfielders was Michael Carrick. I really love Michael Carrick. Never really got into the England setup because it was like the Gerrard Lampard sort of era and stuff like that. But sometimes you just need a player in there that can keep it simple, do the gritty stuff when it's needed, but also just have the brain, because if your brain works, you're always a bit one step ahead, you could say, in the game. And Casemiro gives us that. The only thing I'm worried about, and you guys might notice this on Saturday, but when he's come back from his suspension that he last had, I feel now that he's playing his game with a bit more caution. And I'm hoping that doesn't take away from his game, because he likes going in for a tackle. He likes being destructive. That's what he's there for. He's not really he's not a ball playing midfielder. He's kind of a destructive midfielder. And I feel like now, because he's been booked so many times, he's had a couple of reds, it's like he's always cautious about whether he goes in or dives in. And against Wolves, if you do hit us on a transition, if Adama comes on, if you've got Matthias Nunes breaking through the middle, we're going to need him to sort of be that Casemiro to break up the
Yeah.
pain and get us going again. And I just hope that it's not in the back of his mind, because, you know, if you take something like that away from a world-class player, that's quite a big part of his game. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that, yeah, he can find that again. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I've sort of said earlier on our preview, obviously, to be fair, games between United and Wolves have been pretty close over the last couple of years. I think the last few years I've been to United twice since we've been promoted. The first
I
season
might have
we
been at the
drew.
same game as you. I
Yeah,
went to one where I think Willy Bowley scored. We drew 1-1. Fred scored for us.
yeah, Matinho scored that game. That was the one in
Moutinho,
our white.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I was
I was at
there.
that game, and then
Yeah.
I went when just after New Year last year. I think it was we won 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
But Molyneux, you've seemed. I mean, in the league, you've seemed to get the better of us. I think you won earlier this season. Obviously, Rashford
Just.
came on and just made the
Mm.
difference. So we have had some cracking games. The FA Cup quarter final for me at Molyneux is one of the sort of best moments as a Wolves fan in terms of
Yeah.
atmosphere and so on that we created. But they've been close games. But what do you think, Tyrone, for United to take the next step in terms of transfers? I know there's a big takeover possibly happening, which we'll talk about in a sec as well. But what do United need? Is it a new number 9? Because I think that's possibly what they're lacking at the moment. Weghorst, although he's done a job, probably isn't the answer for you guys long term.
Yeah, he's not staying. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I think when you look at teams that win titles, teams that win cup competitions, it's all about the spine.
Yeah.
And if I look at our spine, I think we need at least 3 players in there. Number 9 is imperative, 100%. I know people talk about Harry Kane. So just for example, it's an easy name to throw out there. He might leave Spurs 100 million, 80 million, whatever it is. Harry Kane there. I'd go in for another midfielder. I feel a bit sorry for Eriksen, if I'm honest. A good player, good squad player, but we've relied on him too much in terms of the volume amount of games he's played and started. I don't think he was meant to come in and do that, but unfortunately he's had to. So I'd get another midfielder next to Casemiro, 100%. Harry Kane. I think we need a right centre-back. So we get, say, 4 transfers realistically. A right centre-back as well, because Varane's injury-prone. And a goalkeeper, which is obviously a hot discussion at the moment, because De Gea is going to get a new deal, but I think we're going to get competition for him, because Butland and Heaton at the moment, obviously, you know them guys. They've been around for a long time now. They're not going to quite push him to take over the number 1 spot. So hopefully we get another keeper. And so I literally just want the spine sorted out, a striker, a midfielder, a right centre-back, even though I love Varane, but just injuries, and then a goalkeeper as well. And I think if we get top 4 signings for a team like Manchester United who can improve the team is realistic. I'm not going to come in and say, we need 8 players, 9 players. It's not going to happen. But 4 should be realistic. So that's how I'd go.
Yeah, you would say so. The one thing that surprised me as well is that when I was watching the United West Ham game, it came up with the amount of appearances De Gea has made, and I never realised how much he's played for United. Like, he's up there with like Rooney numbers,
12,
like in terms of appearances.
now, I think.
It's crazy, isn't it? How long he's been at the club as well. But I know I mentioned it earlier, the takeover as well. I mean, you'll be probably keeping a closer eye on it to what I am, and I imagine, or from what I've seen, I think there's 2 bids, 2 people possibly looking to buy the club. The Glazers obviously aren't very well liked within the Manchester United fan base, but from your point of view, or from what you've seen in the news and so on, when do you think this is actually going to happen? And from your viewpoint as a fan, do you think it needs to happen to take United to the next step again?
I think we need to have sort of a confirmation of a name before the FA Cup final for me, which is June the 3rd. I just think because the season's going to end then, and then once the season ends, that's it. You're just forward planning into the summer, and I think the longer we leave it and it goes into sort of a late June, early July, then you haven't got long before the season starts. You start pre-season. I just think everything becomes a bit of a rush. Like last year, we signed Anthony and Casemiro after the 2 defeats at the start of the season. I'd rather go into the season knowing who we have as owners and knowing what players are coming in. And I always use Pep Guardiola as the reference. If you think about Pep Guardiola, every time Man City buy a player, say Bernardo Silva, whoever it is, they're always in before pre-season. You never see City buying players like last minute of the window. Okay, they got a Kanji, but was a squad player, of course, but he wasn't like their main target. Main targets, they're in early or they're pre-agreed, like Gundogan's coming when his contract finishes at Dortmund and they just arrive. I want Man United to be in that position where we're organised, and I feel like as fans, we're stable and we're not panicking saying, we're linked to left, right and centre and we start getting a plan C and D target. I just want us to have the owners sorted out. Yeah, I'd like something by early to mid-June latest, and then we can plan forward really. But if you're going to ask me for my preference, I would want the Sheikhs to come in, if I'm honest. I'd want the guys from Qatar. With Jim Ratcliffe, it seems like he's going to leave the Glazers sort of lingering in the background a bit. the Man United fans kind of want a full cycle of change. Whereas I think
yeah.
that takeover could leave a few fans still restless because it's like, okay, we've got new owners, but the problem, who it was, are still lingering in the background. Whereas I feel like with the Qataris, they'll just
Take
recycle
full control.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you could completely right. I think in an ideal world, you want all your transfers to be done before the first day of pre-season, so you've got that time to bed in. It never happens, but as fans, we
No.
always want it to happen. But the Wolves takeover happened probably 6-7 years ago now, but that happened midsummer as well, and
And how do you feel about your owners?
they're all. I'm sort of appreciative of them because obviously they've got us to where we are, and I don't think and I think things have changed. I think they've sort of realised they're Premier League owners now, and fans sort of don't realise. We're Wolverhampton, working class city. Majority of my lifetime, we've been sort of Championship.
Yeah.
A lot of fans have seen us much lower, Division 3, Division 4. So
True.
now we're almost, an established Premier League
Stable
club.
Premier League club, yeah.
And I think the owners know that and could take advantage of that, unfortunately. And we know now football is obviously a business, but my point was sort of in regards to their takeover, that was like almost mid pre-season and everything was so rushed. And we did sign good players, but you're signing random players from abroad with a week left of pre-season. There's just no preparation whatsoever.
Exactly.
So I think you're right there. You want that done sooner rather than later. Even the fact that the FA Cup final's done, right? New owners in, have a chat with Ten Hag, players go on their break, and then bang, you're ready to go.
Get the ball rolling. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah,
and I think that gives the rest of the squad confidence as well, because then they just feel like themselves, they're working for a company. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember that these are still humans. At the end of the day, despite what they're getting paid, they're still working, like they're playing for a club, but there's people above them. And, there's nothing better than just feeling comfortable and knowing that there's a direction or a stable plan of where you're going. Because as a player, you want to win trophies. You want to, have the best players around you. And, if you have the owner that's going to back the manager, then you're like, okay, like we're all pointing in the same direction. And I think that's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. And before we finish off, in terms of the Wolves squad, anyone that worries you coming into this game at Old Trafford on Saturday?
Do you know what? I'd probably say he hasn't come back and been the same as what he has been, but Pedro Neto for me, because I just feel like in the transition, you've kind of changed. I always looked, and it's funny enough, I was going to ask you about Wolves, because I've always looked to you guys with like Adam Traore, you had Daniel Podence, quick counter-attacking sort of tricky players. And I feel like now with like Cunha and Diego Costa, they're more physical, a bit slower. And I think that sort of benefits us in terms of when we want to keep the ball and recycle it. However, Pedro Neto is like your Rashford for us. He's going to be your outlet. And I just feel like at the moment, we're a bit unstable in, the left back area. And I know sometimes he plays on the left and right flank. He can do both, to be fair. But we've got Luke Shaw playing in at centre back at the moment. Sometimes it's Dalot, sometimes it's Malacia. I think he could get a bit of joy if he actually plays him, a bit on the right-hand side in your transition. Like I said, good ball carrier, cuts on his left foot, can create as well. And I'd probably say Matthias Nunes, just because of the ball carrying quality he possesses. Obviously, Neves is a good player. We know he can, pass it around, keep possession nicely, ticking over. But I just feel like we're probably going to have most of the ball, and where you're going to have to try and hurt us is in that transition. And I think, like we said about Casemiro, Eriksen not really having the legs. If Nunes can get the ball and sort of drive through that second phase of the pitch and starts like running into our final third, I just feel like the pitch could open up for him. And I'm just a bit worried about that. But I feel like compared to the other years of playing Wolves, I'm more confident this year than I have been, because I actually put you in every year. If we look at 5 teams we don't want to play as Man United fans, I actually put Wolves in there for us. I don't really like playing Wolves, if I'm honest. I think you make it tricky. It's like a boxer. Styles make fights. And you're very good at the way you play against us. So I think with your away form this year, it's not been that great. Your home form has been better, quite clearly. I think you're like 17th in the table in away form. And I think
our away form's awful,
your away form's awful. And with us now having a better home record this season and needing to win, because top 4, like you said, is Liverpool are breathing down our necks. I feel like the impetus is with us now to, go on and win this game. Whereas, you're not on the beach, but you're safe. You've done your job this season. You're mid-table. Like, there's no excuses from our side. So, I'll say Pedro Neto and Nunes in terms of the transition in midfield.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What about you? Sorry, I'll let you.
It's all right. No, I was going to say it's interesting those points you make, because obviously, I promised people watching this, I recorded my bit before we did this, because very similar sort of things. I said, obviously, United have got things to play for, whereas we haven't. And survival's done for us now. Lopetegui sort of hinted at maybe giving opportunities to players that haven't really played as much. But Neto's one that, like I said, struggled a lot with injury. Only had cameos here and there. But even we got smashed against Brighton 6-0. He had a half-decent performance then. I thought he was even better last week against Villa. So you're right, he's sort of coming into it a little bit more. We have that quite often where players have long-term injuries and almost start finding their form right at the end of the season when you don't really want it to happen. And Nunes as well is a top player. We've not seen it enough, but you can just tell there's a very good player in there. And I'm hoping this sort of game on a bigger stage, he sort of
Do you
steps up a
think,
little bit as well.
I know you want to wrap up shortly, but I just want to ask
That's
you
right.
on Nunes, do you feel like Lopetegui and his style will enable Wolves to get the best out of him?
It's difficult because obviously when you talk about Nunes, everyone just, well, you would say he was a central midfielder. That's where he played his sort of better football for Sporting, but we've predominantly played him out wide, almost as like an
Yeah.
inverted winger. I prefer him on the right to the left. Whenever he plays on the left for whatever reason, I don't think he plays that well. The home games, he's been playing on the right a little bit more. He had last week, he had Nunes on the right, Neto on the left, and personally, I'll probably start with that again.
Okay.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm hoping next year, obviously, if we keep him, because there's rumours that he may leave in the summer. If we keep him, he's had a year to adapt to the Premier League and he can really kick on. But like I said, there's lots of players in world football like this. You can watch them and think there's a fantastic footballer in there.
How do you unlock it?
But
Yeah.
exactly that. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully Saturday is the day, but who knows? Tyrone, before we finish, sorry.
Yep.
I was going to ask you for a score prediction if you've got one.
Yeah. I'm normally a pessimist, but it's Wolves at home. It's a must-win for us. I'm gonna go gritty 1-0. We're not scoring enough goals at the moment. And Wolves, let's put the Brighton game aside, you don't really concede a lot of goals when you play us, and I think you're quite solid normally all round. So yeah, gritty 1-0. It could be a controversial goal, one of them ones sort of like VAR has a look. I just don't think it's gonna be a pretty game. But do you know what? At this time of the season, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. I probably use my heart for my prediction rather than my head. I said a 1-1 draw. So, but I think it'll be a very close game, like you've said, either way. But before we finish off, podcasts, where's the best places to find you, Tyrone?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. It's been great football talk. Like the video, people, and subscribe as well. For my stuff, Never a Foul. It's our generic football channel, so that's like Never a Foul. And then Trafford Tunnel is our Manchester United one. But obviously, I know it's a Wolves channel here, so Never a Foul probably to suit everyone. Generic football channel on the way to 10K. But no, thank you so much for having me on, mate. I really appreciate it.
It's been fantastic, man. Really, really enjoyed it. I'll make sure I leave a link to those podcasts in the description. And I mean, all the best for the rest of the season, man. Let's hope Manchester United get top 4 for you. And long may it continue, man. Thanks for
good luck with the rest of your season as well, mate. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Chat to you soon. So big thanks to Tyrone. I'll make sure I leave a link to him and his channels in the description down below. And guys, it's going to be a really tricky game for Wolves. If you are going to Old Trafford, obviously stay safe and hopefully enjoy it. We will be back with the post-match content. And of course, then next week, the pre-match content ahead of the final home game of the season against Everton. Do let me know your score predictions. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I was going to say 1-0 Wolves win, but let's a 1-1 draw. We'll have the fans react after the game as well on Saturday. But enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.